the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything. All it takes is some time and some clarity to find your identity. It's mind over everything. And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. 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 Don't stop.
What's up you guys, I hope you enjoyed that little clip that I put at the beginning of this video of my client's brand new home, which I helped him purchase in the beginning of 2021. In this video, I'll talk about how I met this specific client, how we found the home that he was looking for, and how we closed the deal. It all started February 20th, 2020, when he came onto my database as an online lead. And that's one of the cool things about my database. It does lead generation and the leads automatically get put into my system. And from there, I can follow up with them using either email, text message, or I can give them a phone call. So the way I got the ball rolling was I sent him a text message and we had a few text messages back and forth. But overall, he was looking to move from Northern California down here to Southern California because his kid was here and he wanted to be able to spend more time with him. So he told me all the details that he was looking for, number of bedrooms, bathrooms, and everything else that you would ask a client when they are looking for a home. He also told me that he was planning to come down here in April so that he could start viewing properties and seeing what was on the market. But as you know, in 2021 beginning, there were so many properties just flying off the market so quickly because interest rates were low, but prices were now shooting up. So there wasn't a lot of inventory, and even the homes that were there, they were overpriced and just weren't what he was looking for. Even the homes that we saw that he did like, some of them had offers of 5, 10, 15, even 20 bids on the house. So it was really difficult finding something for him. After taking him out a few times, he actually told me that he was interested in new home builds. And that was something that I was actually interested in finding for him as well, because the market was so hot that it was so hard finding properties for buyers in general. But for new home builds, it was first come, first serve. So anyone that came into a new home build community could easily go into the office, sign up, and they would eventually have a home after 5 to 10 months. On top of that, with new home builds, you don't have to have the crazy amounts of down payment that a lot of agents were looking for when representing their sellers. So you could come in with a very low 3.5% down on a house and your client would get it. So when I got back to the office, I started looking for him to find any communities that were new homes that he would be interested in. And eventually I stumbled across KB Home. For those of you who don't know, KB Home is a new home builder here in Southern California, and I'm sure they are all over the place, but I was able to find this particular community that would fit my client's needs perfectly. So I reached out to one of the reps at the community who I've known for a very long time, and she put me in contact with someone else at that particular site. And I was able to take my client there and show him the properties, and eventually, right after we had done the showings and met with that agent, he decided to purchase one of the homes. So right then and there, he wrote a check for the security deposit, he found out all the information he needed, and we were off. But the only problem was the home was going to be built in 9 months. Home builders at the time were struggling with construction material, so the homes were taking a lot longer than expected, but there's nothing we could have done. And as a side note, that's one of the hard parts about being in real estate. you can work with a client for as long as you want, and at the end of the day, they may not purchase, or something may come up and your paycheck may be delayed by 9 months. But overall, I got him signed up and he was ready to go. In the meantime, between those 9 months, since the time we had signed him up and the time that the home was going to be built, I was checking in with the agent, I was checking in with my client, and just making sure that everything was on track so that he would be able to finally get his home 9 months later. The really cool part about new home builds is you get to see the plot of land where the house is going to be, and over time you get to see the construction and how the home is built up, which is pretty cool. So the clip that you saw at the beginning of this video was me pulling up to the property, meeting with my client, meeting with his parents, meeting with my home inspector, and also meeting with the inspector there for KB Home. Now, the reason why I have a home inspector of my own to see the property is because even though it's a brand new home, it's always good to have an inspector take a look. You never know what you can find, regardless if it's a new home or if it's a resale home. And guess what? My home inspector found issues with the property, and he was able to give a full report that I could hand over to the other inspector for KB, and they were able to make the fixes to the issues that they found. Everything seemed to be going great, but at the last minute, we ran into some issues. My client had a lot of his money tied up in the stock market, so he would have to sell his stock, put it into his bank account, and then wire the funds over to escrow. The only issue was we were coming down to the deadline. So instead of liquidating all of his stocks, he went to his uncle and asked his uncle to gift him the money, and he would eventually repay him back. At this point, my client had to scramble around trying to find the documents that the lenders needed. And even on top of that, the lenders started messing up and forgot to ask for some documents. My client had to run around and try to find his uncle. Eventually, he was able to find him in order to get the documents that he needed signed for the lenders. Overall, it was a very messy situation, and it normally doesn't happen that way, but we ended up finally getting the home for my client, and he closed. So what is the moral of this story? Well, if you're an agent like myself and you're in a very hot market like we saw over the past couple of years, then it would be easier to find your client a new home build rather than competing with all of these other agents and buyers that are in the market. One of the biggest issues of 2020 and 2021 were the number of buyers that were coming out and the bidding wars that were taking place. But with a new home build, you can avoid all of that competition, and your client doesn't have to put as much money down to prove that they can afford the house. On top of that, your client has a lot of different options that they can choose from, starting with the lot all the way down to the upgrades that they want for the house, which is exactly what my client got to do. He even put in an additional office instead of a 4th bedroom because he started to work from home. The only issue that I have with the new home builds is that they have high taxes, high price tags, and high HOAs, and the HOAs can eventually go up over time if the community decides so. Overall, these are all things that I mentioned to my clients before they even purchase the home. So if they still want the house, then it's up to them. But anyways, guys, that's my story for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section below. And if you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe and turn on the notification bells for my future videos. And on that note, I will see you all in the next video.